guys, so we're here today to hopefully, for the last time, talk about Creepshow Art and Emily Artful. If you missed my last video on Creepshow Art, she came back, posted a stalkerish diatribe about Emily Artful, and the entire drama community was not here for it. I mean, the internet in general wasn't here for it, and Emily had talked about doing a response. She hadn't uploaded one yet, and I think a lot of people thought maybe she was just like over it. A lot of people told her she didn't have to respond, and in her video she did say, I know, but it's like also like she feels like she needs to get her side of the story out there and like correct some lies, and I totally get that. So we're gonna briefly go through Emily Artful's video today. I'm just hitting on the major points. The video is an hour and a half, and I totally recommend you go watch it. It's very organized. She has a lot of counterpoints to Shannon's points. A lot of the lies she debunks are like smaller lies that I thought weren't important in Shannon's video anyway, so I'm not really going to go over them here, but it does kind of help to paint the picture of just how awful Creepshow Art or Shannon is. So before I get into this, subscribe to my channel. I upload twice a week, and you should stick around. Also, tomorrow is Valentine's Day, so we couldn't decide on pink or red, so I went with both, and like honestly, kind of feeling it. So I'm just gonna go in kind of chronological order of Emily's video because it just feels like the right thing to do. So the first thing Emily discusses in her video is something a lot of drama channels caught on to. At the beginning of Shannon's video, she basically was like, if you're watching this, either we've gone through the court system and settled this, or something else happened, and like we had all knew that neither of those things had happened, and that it like Shannon literally started her video off with a lie. Emily confirmed that and basically said, you know, Shannon's lawyer basically sent her a cease and desist. People were debating online whether or not it was a real lawyer or not, but Emily did look them up and saw that they're a law firm for real, but they deal more so with like removing celebrity stuff online. So the idea was that they wanted Emily to remove all instances of Shannon from her channel and to never speak from it again, and obviously Emily said no. So I think Shannon kind of assumed she would fold. A lot of what happens in situations like this with a law firm like this is that people will just fold because they'll get a scary letter from a lawyer. It's kind of like how your IP company or IP provider will like send you a cease and desist if you illegally torrent things. Like I allegedly may have received one from HBO before, and like they're not gonna actually sue you. They just send you a scary letter to like scare you and hope that you'll stop. And that's kind of what happened here. Emily didn't, and so Shannon went nuclear. Who's surprised? Now Emily talks about the posts that Shannon digs up from Emily's childhood. Most people kind of glossed over this when talking about the situation because we all know that like children should not be held accountable for what they did 20 years later. Like we were all cringy children at one point, and Emily actually talks about how when she was younger she was diagnosed with depression and was on like some severe mind-altering medications that actually later had like come out, and like the FDA had said that it can result in like gambling addiction and sex addiction and compulsive disorders. So that could explain why Emily was like obsessed with her teacher at one point. And like these drugs that are so mind altering mixed with the hormone riddled body of a teenager is obviously going to cause adverse effects. Again, I don't think Emily needed to explain this. I think we all understood that like what Emily posted about her teacher or other women when she was like 13 to 15 years old are not relative to who she is now. And I think that's a big part of what Emily goes through in this video. And I think it's a big part of what everyone saw also is that like, why are we holding why is Shannon refusing to admit to the Lolcow stuff and then bringing up stuff that Emily did that was so bad when she was a literal child? Like we were all cringy, weird children, and people grow and learn. And I think that like Shannon's probably one of those people that thinks that cancel culture like actually works or something, and that people don't deserve to grow, I guess, because I think the entire internet has come to the consensus that Emily has grown. Throughout this entire video, Emily takes accountability for her old posts multiple times. Like she even says like, yeah, I was on these mind-altering medications and I was in a bad place and I was an awful person, but it does not excuse what I did, and I did it, and like I feel awful for that. And like it's just like the fact that Emily is so fucking self-aware, the fact that Emily is so willing to take accountability for stuff that she did when she was in the throes of addiction just shows the quality of character of Emily Artful compared to Shannon. Shannon can't take accountability for jack shit, and she has literally done some awful things. She has still yet to address the Lolcow stuff, which we will get to. It refuses to admit that that was her, whereas Emily has, like, throughout this video, like, the amount of times I heard her say, like, I don't want to say I was a different person back then because it's not fair. I did that and it was fucked up and there's no excuse. And just, like, it just shows the quality of character of Emily and the fact that she is self-aware enough to look back and be like, yeah, what I did was awful and there's no excuse for it. I fucked up. And, like, that's honestly, like, the perfect apology ever. Again, I don't think Emily owes any of us an apology. And I think most people can see that this is nothing more than a character assassination from Shannon. But it was just, like, something I wanted to note because I do think it just kind of shows the kind of person that Emily truly is, which is a good person. Emily then starts showing information that she's like, I don't know how Shannon found this because I don't even have this information. For instance, there's the list of aliases that Shannon shows, like every alias that Emily has had online, and I wouldn't really call it an alias, it's just all the usernames she's used for like DeviantArt, YouTube, etc. And Emily says in this list, one of the aliases or an old DeviantArt account is called Emma Dilemma, and Dilemma is spelled wrong. And Emily says, I deleted this account a long ass time ago. And she's like, I tried to look for it. So she's like, I searched it everywhere. She even went as far as to search it on Bing and DuckDuckGo. The girl was reaching through the depths of the internet and she couldn't find it, which, I mean, we all have already come to this conclusion, but it's further proof that Shannon did not start her research or gather this information after Emily posted her video, after the Lolcow stuff. She has had this information on Emily, allegedly, for a long ass time, and it's very clear, based on stuff that is no longer on the internet that Shannon had in her little document. I didn't cover it, but there was an unedited version of the Google Doc that people were going through. Because when you share a Google Doc, you can see the previous edits. And so people had gone through like the original edit and kind of ripped apart a lot of the stuff that was in there. I mean, I kind of just didn't want to beat a dead horse. Like what Shannon did publicly was trash, and I didn't really feel the need to go through the Google Doc, but there are videos about that if you are interested. So again, just further proof that Shannon proved that she's a stalker. No one's surprised. I also, in my original video, again, about Creepshow, and my last video about Creepshow, talked a lot about the Britta Filter account. In Emily's original video, I thought the Britta Filter account was really the smoking gun of everything, because the Britta account, the timing of the Britta account made no sense. Like it messaged Emily right after Emily had messaged Shannon about something, and then suddenly Shannon knew the Britta Filter account. We will get a little bit more deeply into the Britta Filter account later, but an interesting thing here is that when we're talking about the list of aliases, is that that's one of the things that the Britta Filter account mentioned. Just as a reminder, the Britta Filter account messaged Emily and said that they were the sister of the person that was stalking Emily for 10 years. It was like her 15-year-old brother, which made no sense because obviously a 5-year-old probably isn't stalking a grown woman. But one of the things that the Britta Filter account told Emily that the brother, aka the stalker, had was a list of usernames that Emily has had, which was included in the Google Doc from Shannon. Is this a coincidence? I think not. Is this further proof that the Britta Filter account is most likely linked to Shannon? Absolutely. Because we're going to go over it further, but a lot of the stuff the Britta Filter account brought up is stuff that Shannon includes in this video. Like, the girl is telling on herself. Emily then, so unfortunately, has to discuss her sobriety date because in Shannon's video, she labeled an entire section heroin and decided to pick apart at what her sobriety date really was. Shannon was adamant that it was 2012. However, Emily went through the screenshots that Shannon showed as proof and proved them wrong, or proved that like the math doesn't math, Shannon. The math doesn't math. And like, listen, I also don't do math well, but like maybe double check the numbers if you're gonna make a whole manifesto about it. What? My cat also hates Shannon. You know, she was screaming in my last Creepshow video. Maybe it's a sign she really doesn't like her. Tell the people, do you hate Shannon? Creepshow Art the worst. You're so cute. You're so cute. Am I just gonna film the rest of the video with a cat on my lap? Potentially. You just might have to deal with this. So the first screenshot that Shannon shared, I'm so sorry. The first screenshot that Shannon shared was an Instagram post from September of 2016 that said 3 years in November, which Emily says are just lyrics, but even if that was proof of her sobriety date, 3 years before 2016 would be 2013, so we're still not in 2012. She then also shows a video where Emily says that she was clean for 3 years. The video was uploaded in May of 2016, which again, can we do math? That's not 2012. Emily then shows a DUI charge she got in December of 2012, which proves that she was not sober. Emily then also has Bob, who is her ex, talk in the video. He does like a lot of, they did like an interview between each other in the video, and he talks in the video and says that he did witness Emily using when they were dating in June of 2013. I don't know why this is a thing that Shannon felt the need to bring up. I think it's absolutely disgusting for her to be discussing someone's sobriety date like it fucking matters. I know that Shannon's trying to use it as like proof that Emily's a liar. She's trying to be like, oh, well, she lied about her sobriety date. But like, I mean, if there's anything that anyone in the world gets to lie about, I think it's that. I think that's like the most allowed thing to lie about and not have to share publicly. Like Shannon has, like Emily says in this video, you know, there's some things, I was an overshare at the time, but there's some things I kept private, and my relapses were clearly one of those things, which makes complete sense. Like, what the fuck? Emily then catches Anthony in an interesting lie. She blocked him, and then he started, you know, as Shannon said, lightly trolling her. So Emily messaged him and was like, listen, I know that you're harassing me, but like, could you not? I just want us to like go our separate ways. My current boyfriend doesn't want me associating with my ex, so I blocked you. Let's let it go. And his reply is, I don't know what you mean by harassing. The only accounts that I have are the ones with my face and name on it. And like, this was in 2017, where I think like most people didn't know about PopSocket accounts or like fake accounts. And it's just interesting, another like you're telling on yourself moment, because like Emily never said that you were using PopSocket accounts. She said you were harassing her, and I know you're the one harassing me, but she never said like over text or over email or on social media or whatever. So why would he automatically jump to assume that that's what she meant, unless that's what him and Shannon were doing? Makes you think. Why are cats? Also, in Shannon's video, she talks a lot about how Emily says that she was forced to cam, but I mean, I guess I never dug into this part, but Emily literally says it's a lie. She talks to Bob. She says he never forced her to cam, which is who Shannon says she was forced to cam. Emily also says she was never forced to cam. She chose to do it. So like, again, like, what are we doing? Why is Shannon bringing this shit up? But now, let's get into Britta Filter. So there's a lot of things the Britta Filter account mentioned in that message to Emily that Shannon included in her video as evidence that she had. Isn't that interesting that the account that belonged to the sister of the stalker who provided Emily with information about all the different things the stalker had is information that Shannon has? So specifically what the Britta Filter account mentioned that Shannon also mentioned was this, the bathtub video. We all know that Shannon did like a 30-minute diatribe about the bathtub video for no reason other than to try and slander Emily and like, I guess, tell us she's a whore, which like, it's 2022, sis. No one is judging someone for that. Have you seen the hot tub streamers? She talks about proof that she bought subscribers, which again is something that that like Anthony had mentioned. Oh my God, why are you screaming at me? Why is it every time I film about this person you scream? What do you know that I don't? The getting fired based on a bad review, a grainy video that Emily knows that she had only ever sent to Anthony, and And then also the page of screen names that we already mentioned. So like the Britta Filter thing is very heavily like what Shannon showed. So like, is Shannon Britta Filter? Maybe. When Emily confronted Shannon about Britta Filter originally, Shannon was like, oh yeah, I know that account. They also messaged me, and her claim was that that account was the stalker, even though Britta Filter claimed to be the sister of the stalker. And she also claimed that the account had been deleted, which it hasn't. And it's just like, if somebody brought up a sock puppet account to you of their stalker, like, you just conveniently also know about it. It's just like all too much coincidence for it to not be something that you're involved in. And then let's talk about Lolcow. Now, what's interesting is Emily found that a lot of the Lolcow posts that Shannon still denies was her is very close to what Shannon posted in her actual video. So Shannon's video actually further proves what we already knew, in that the Lolcow posts were Shannon, because the Lolcow posts, first of all, mention Emily's bathtub video. Second of all, there's this like weird post where she talks about the timeline of Emily camming and her bullying other women online and her drug history. And it's basically like tons of different things that Shannon outlines in this video on this Lolcow post that was not from Shannon, that was exposed to be Shannon in the Lolcow leaks. So like she not only outed herself as Emily's stalker, but she also outed herself as the Lolcow thing being factual, which I mean, we all already knew, but is this further proof? I would say yes. There's also a post from the leak that says that, oh, Emily attacks smaller creators and thinks she owns the storytime thing, which is, Emily says that she only ever talked to Shannon privately about that, so no one would know about that except for Shannon and Emily. And also, it wasn't about doing story times, it was the name Sketchbook Storytime that Shannon had, or that Emily had been doing first, and she just asked her if she could use a different name, which I think is completely reasonable. So basically, not only did Shannon prove that she's most likely Britta Filter in her video, she also proved that the Lolcow leaks, where she was proven to be shitting on all of her friends, where there were homophobic and transphobic and sexist remarks, were also her. So, like, I mean, we're all pretty sure that the video that Shannon posted is the last video she'll ever post, but like, she has no choice at this point unless she comes back as another faceless channel and does someone, and like uses a voice changer, because like, she's destroyed any credibility she's ever had. The major point though that Emily discusses in this video that I think is very important is that any proof or evidence that Shannon provided is not recent. There's nothing recent that proves that Emily's a shitty person. Every single thing that Shannon provides is either outdated or misleading. Those are the only two things. There's no proof that Amy is her stalker, don't forget about that. There's no proof that Emily is her stalker. There's no proof that Emily did anything wrong in any of these situations. And again, Emily has taken accountability for her own actions time and time again and said that what she has done was wrong and like the way she acted in the past was wrong. Excuse me, ma'am. Are you a star? Emily has said time and time again that she knows she wasn't a perfect person. She has taken accountability for the person she was in the past. And so Shannon proved nothing. We all knew Shannon proved nothing. The main reason I wanted to make this video was because Emily felt the need to get her side out there, and I wanted to kind of amplify it as much as Shannon's side got amplified. I mean, I know Shannon's side got ripped apart, but I think that Emily deserves just as much to hear her side, and she's right. There has been no recent evidence that Shannon provided that Emily's an awful person. No one is on Shannon's side. Nothing she provided makes any sense. Everything's too coincidental. To my opinion, Emily's story makes the most sense. Shannon's story makes no sense, and Shannon is the worst, basically. So that is kind of the end, I hope, of the Emily Artful Creepshow Art situation. Emily says this is the last video she'll be posting on it. Shannon has said it's the last video she'll be posting on it. I believe Emily, I don't believe Shannon. Now that Emily has replied, I could easily see Shannon replying as well, but like, there's literally nothing she can say. Her original video was awful. Her script was awful. It was filled with so much vitriol and hate, and you could just tell that she had this information on Emily for a long, long time, which is just further proof that her and Anthony were the ones stalking Emily, and it's fucking sad. Like, you had your own platform, you had your own following and community, and like, there must be something completely fucked up and wrong with Shannon to have destroyed it all just because she wants to be a hateful person and she couldn't stop herself. So that is kind of the end of the story. I hope Emily gets to move on from this and, you know, have a happy life, go have fun with her children and her family, and like never think of Shannon or Anthony ever again. And I hope that Shannon gets fucking help and realizes that everyone on the internet isn't against her as some sort of fucking conspiracy. It's because she's in the wrong and she needs to do something about that and maybe stop listening to her husband so much. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down below if you guys watched Emily's video and what you thought about it, if you've been following this entire situation, and if this is just further proof that Creepshow Art was stalking Emily. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye!